Layers in Illustrator work quite a bit differently than the layers you're used to working with in Photoshop. Let's go over how to work with layers in Illustrator, what the differences are, and why you might want to use them. Because in Photoshop, it's almost mandatory that you use layers. In fact, every time you create a new text object or you draw a new object, or even place new photos in a project, they'll automatically be separated onto their own layers. In Illustrator, you don't have to work with layers at all. Most of your items can be all together on one layer, but you might want to use it because it makes it easier to work more efficiently, to select certain objects, to lock certain layers so you don't alter them. So let's talk about how the layers in Illustrator work. First, make sure you can see the Layers panel. If you can't, go up to the Window menu and choose Layers. And I've just moved mine over so I can see the whole column. Now, in Illustrator, the layers are kind of hard to see what's on those layers. So let's go to the Panel menu, go to Panel Options, choose Other, and I usually type in 50 pixels, and that allows me to get a better idea of what's on these layers. So let's go ahead and rename this layer, double click on the name, and I'll call this Flower Layer. And actually I shouldn't have to call it layer. I don't know why I did that. So the difference between Photoshop and Illustrator layers is that Illustrator will put everything on one layer unless you tell it not to, unless you tell it to put something else on a different layer. In addition, in Photoshop, when you're creating a layer, let's say you have an 8.5 by 11 document, that layer is exactly 8.5 by 11. And even if your little object in the bottom is maybe 1 inch by 1 inch, it's still going to make that whole layer because it's like a transparent sheet that you put on the top of your project. Illustrator is different. Right now, you can see my whole layer is filled up with my flower. But let's say if I create a new layer and I just do a tiny itty bitty green rounded rectangle. Watch what happens. So tiny. All of a sudden it looks like that's huge, but in proportion to the flower actually on the artboard, it doesn't look huge because that layer, it only contains whatever was in here. So if I create another one, now all of a sudden you see two. And if I create one far away, now all of a sudden you see two tiny little dots and then one down in the bottom. So if I create another one, now you can see that it's sort of taken up more space. So that's one way in which layers differ. So let me go ahead and delete that layer. And it says it contains artwork. Are you sure? Yes. Okay. So one way that they're similar is you can poke the eyeball to turn the artwork on and off. So you can hide and show certain parts of certain layers. But another way that they're different is that right now, my top layer includes the entire flower. However, if I hit this toggle button, you can see that there are a lot of sub-layers, and that's what they're called. There are a lot of sub-layers in here. Each of my flower petals and my centerpiece right here, I don't know what that's called, those are all their own sub-layer. These you kind of don't want to get into unless you're really sure that's where you need to go to edit stuff. So normally you want to have your layers toggled up. Now if you want to lock, you can hit this little empty square right here, and this will lock it, and this means that I can't come in here and move anything. But where layers might come in handy is, let's say I want to make this flower a little bit more unique. My problem is I want to make a copy of all of these petals, make them smaller, and then add a blue ring of petals inside of here. But it's going to be really hard for me because as I go to move them, let's say I go to move them, it's going to move the whole thing because I've selected that centerpiece as well. So how do I select all of them? I could do a marquee selection here, hold shift and do a marquee selection here, and then another one here, and copy and paste it, and okay, that's random. Some petals didn't come in there, and then all of a sudden that center, I really should know what the name of that thing is, but that's in there and I didn't want it to be. So how do we do this? Let's go ahead and put these on their own layers, and it's going to make it a lot easier for us. So in order to put things on new layers, I'm going to create a new layer, and this one I'm going to call center. What the heck is that? I don't know what it is. Okay, and these are pink petals, and I did not spell that right. I'm really messing up this tutorial video. Anyway, so how do I get this center to its own layer? Well, I could go up to Edit, Cut, and then click on my layer and do edit, paste in place so it's in the exact same place. But here's an easier way. When I've selected that object on the stage, you see this tiny little blue, and it'll be different on yours. It's whatever my layer color is. This tiny little color box right here indicates your selected artwork. If you click and drag that box, it'll take whatever was selected and put it on this layer. So now the center of that flower is on its own layer, and I can lock it. The cool thing about that is now I can select all those pink petals, and I can do Command C, Command V to paste them, or I could have just held the Alt key and then dragged it. And now I have two different pink petals. But these actually I want to be blue and I want them to be smaller. So let's go ahead and move those to their own layer. So these ones I'm going to call blue petals. And again, I'm going to grab that little selector and move it up. And now you can see the pink petals down here on their own layer. So I can lock those, and I want to edit these blue petals. So let me go ahead and change the color. And I want to change the size, so I'm going to hold the Shift key to maintain proportions. And layer order, just like it does in Photoshop, matters. So because my blue petals are underneath the yellow center, they look underneath here. And the pink petals are at the very bottom, so that's why they're underneath everything. So again, why this is cool is I can lock each one of these, and let's say unlock the center. I don't like the black strokes, so I'm gonna do a different color stroke, but one that's sort of similar to its outside color. So that one's yellow with an orange kind of stroke. And then let's say I want to lock that and unlock the blue petals. Even if I marquee select, it's not going to select anything that's locked. So now I can change this stroke color, and maybe I want to make it 2. And then I can go lock that and unlock the pink petal layer. And this one, again, I can change, let's change it to kind of a purple, make it a little bit bigger. And there's my flower. So it's a lot easier to work when using these layers. Just remember that when you select something like the center, in order to move it, you got to grab this selected artwork icon and drag it down to the layer that you want. So last but not least, you can make a release with clipping mask. We're going to do that in a later tutorial video. You can create new sub layers if you want to, and you can create new layers or delete layers themselves.